My name is Buddy Hance. I live in Port Republic, Maryland. I'm a fourth-generation grain tobacco farmer. I grew tobacco until 2000, and we took the tobacco buyout that Maryland provided. And I grow corn, wheat, and soybeans on about 700 acres. You know, in Calvert County, where I live, it was historically been tobacco industry for ever since the Mayflower came over, pretty much. But it's a good life and a good living, but you know, times were changing, and when the state came forward with the buyout, most producers took the buyout, and so Southern Maryland has greatly changed. So now that I'm in the grain business, crop insurance is very important to me. Well, there's a tremendous difference between growing tobacco and grain. Tobacco was a very tolerant crop. We always called tobacco just a weed that we cultivated. Even though genetics today have certainly increased corn and soybeans' abilities to tolerate dry weather, still there's no comparison to the tolerance to dry weather that tobacco had. So, you know, our grain crops are much more susceptible to weather and disease. And, you know, in those days we hired a lot of help. Now I do most everything by myself. So it's a significant transition, you know, from an industry like I grew up in to the industry where I am today. If you trended the prices of tobacco from the 60s up through the 80s, it was a pretty steady trend line upward, so it covered your cost, you know, and you could pretty much count on it. Much different than the grain marketing business, especially today. You know, there's a lot of discussion about high commodity prices, but there's not much discussion about high input cost. Production cost rose slightly more than those increases in gross revenue. So if you really study that, a farmer's net profit didn't change a whole lot with high grain prices. The only thing that really changed was his risk. If we went through droughts like we did in the early 80s today without crop insurance, we'd lose a lot of farmers. I really envy anybody today starting out in agriculture, especially first-generation farmers. Here in Maryland, because of the buy local demand, we have a lot of first-generation farmers, people who now see this buy local movement and this demand as an opportunity to take a smaller amount of land, more hands-on work, so you don't have an investment in equipment like we do at grain farming, retail their sales directly, and be able to make a living. You're not going to be a millionaire, you know, but to plant a seed, to watch that seed sprout and grow and harvest that crop is why I do what I do. A lot of farmers don't use crop insurance, and you know, I think it's important that for the sustainability of the industry, everyone needs to take every measure they can to protect themselves. Well, in agriculture, you know, we're a community. We operate independently, but we operate together. You know, we all need each other. So it's very important for communities, especially as you travel around rural Maryland. These small communities that are agriculturally based rely heavily on agriculture. So it's just so important that we maintain our agricultural base in our rural communities to protect and hold steady those foundations. You know, it's just not myself that depends on crop insurance to hold me afloat. You know, it's all those people that support me throughout the industry, agribusiness, that need me to stay in business for them to survive, and all the people that work for them and their jobs all that depends on me. So crop insurance helps to maintain my sustainability as we move forward in the future. It supports the entire community and all the services that I use.